In a cafe, they met 18-year-old Roso, who worked as a waitress while studying to be a pastry chef, and Pedro, who already worked as an architect at a small company and often stopped by for coffee near his workplace. These two hearts seemed destined for each other, needing no words to convey their joy in simply being in the same room. 2 weeks after their initial meeting, the young couple began dating, and 3 months later, they were married. People said their marriage was made in heaven. They lived in a small apartment provided by Pedro's company. Neither had any relatives, making them the closest and dearest people to each other. The newlyweds decided that once they had a good house, something Pedro always dreamed of, they would consider starting a family. "I want a big family," Pedro would say. "Pedro, don't scare me." "I hope you don't want 7 children," Rosa would reply. "And if I do," her husband would tease, kissing her. "I think I wouldn't cope. I wouldn't have the strength and would crumble like sugar," she said. "Don't worry, Rosita, I won't let you crumble. Get ready to become a mother of many children," Pedro reassured her. 3 years of happy married life passed. Pedro became the chief architect of a significantly expanded company, while Rosa baked pastries to order at home. The couple was waiting for their new cozy home to be built. Pedro carefully thought out every detail of the project, even creating a 3-dimensional model of their future nest. Rosa and Pedro celebrated their 4th anniversary in the house of their dreams. The only thing missing was the laughter of children to fill their spacious Gonzalez family home. "Rosita, do you still not feel sick in the morning?" Pedro would ask his beautiful wife. "Not yet," she would reply playfully. "By the way, not all women get sick. I read that if a pregnancy is desired by both spouses, a woman usually doesn't feel discomfort." "That's it then. You'll only notice you're carrying the baby when he's ready to come out," Pedro would say cheerfully, showering Rosa's hands with kisses. "You're quite a character," Rosa would laugh, pushing her husband away jokingly. Another year passed, but the long-awaited pregnancy did not occur. "Pedro, do you think there's something wrong with me? Why am I still not pregnant?" Rosa asked. "Rosita, my darling, don't worry. We just really want a baby, and it's not happening. We need to learn to let go. Trust me, I want a child, or rather, children, just as much, if not more, than you do. They will come. They must come because I love you so much, my girl with eyes the color of the night." "I love you too, heart stealer of dark-haired girls," Rosa smiled in response. "And here's the heart I stole, only one and loved only one brunette. Even if you had transparent hair, I would still fall madly in love with you." His voice carried such warmth and tenderness that Rosa felt calm and light-hearted. "You have a uterine bend, Señora Gonzalez," the doctor said slowly. "The chance of pregnancy is 1% out of 100. "And what?" Rosa began with a trembling voice. "Nothing can be done, unfortunately." "No, I'm very sorry." Rosa returned home, sketchbook in the other. Rosa collapsed onto the bed, burying her face in the pillow. "Why? Why did this have to happen to me? Why did this happen to us?" she cried, pounding her fists on the pillow. "What about Pedro's dream of a large family? Is it not meant to come true?" No, she couldn't allow this. Rosa decided to have a serious conversation with her husband. She prepared dinner and opened a bottle of good red wine. "My joy, do we have some event today?" Pedro asked as he entered the house. "It smells like Christmas has come." "No, I just wanted to make you happy," Rosa replied. During dinner, Rosa could hardly eat, everything was slipping from her hands. "What's wrong, my little bird?" Pedro asked worriedly. "Are you feeling unwell?" "No, we just need to talk." "Did something happen?" "Tell me, we're a family." "Pedro, it's better for us to part ways." "What? Did I offend you somehow? Are you upset that I spend too much time at work?" "No, my dear," Rosa replied, placing her hand on her husband's. I have no right to deprive you of the joy of becoming a father." "Rosita, listen." "No, Pedro, listen to me first. I went to the doctor. I can't have children. 1% out of 100. "Wait, it's not definite yet." "It is definite," Rosa said, wiping a tear from her cheek. "So you need to find another woman who can give you children." Rosa, I don't need another woman. I need you, he said, squeezing her hand. But I won't be able to give you babies. This house will be empty, understand? And all your dreams will turn to dust. Rosa, please calm down. You're all I have. You are my heart. Even if I never become a father, I'll be with you. We'll fight. We'll go to the capital, even to the ends of the earth. Pedro's words brought Rosa to tears, and she could no longer hold back. For several years, the couple did not give up hope of becoming parents. Pedro took Rosa to the best doctors in the country and even abroad, but all in vain. Everyone said the same thing: the chances of getting pregnant were close to zero. Pedro, darling, Rosa began one day as they walked along the beach, what if we adopt or foster a child? Rosa, my little bird, I'm not ready to raise someone else's child. I'm sorry. But I understand you. I'm scared too. I've heard all sorts of stories about how children can be different, sick, with bad genes that aren't immediately recognizable. Then adoptive parents suffer for the rest of their lives and, as terrible as it sounds, regret their decision. Exactly. They regret it. Imagine we take a baby and then realize they're nothing like us, neither physically nor internally. What do we do then? Yes, you're right. But you know, sometimes I feel so lonely. My cookies and cakes no longer suffice. The house is big and so empty. Rosita, my darling, please don't cry. Let's organize some kind of club for kids right here at our house, and you can take care of them. How about that idea? Pedro, I'm just a pastry chef. What kids? What can I do with them? Think about it. If needed, you can get another education. And those children who will fall into your caring, gentle hands will be happy. Pedro, how do you manage to make me happy so easily? You instill faith in myself. It's so important. I would have died without you long ago, my golden architect of human destinies. Wow, you're giving me quite the title. You're just a poet. Oh, stop it. What poet am I? I'm just. She didn't finish her sentence because a little boy in a green cap crashed right into them. Alejandro, be careful, said the boy's mother, a graceful woman in a bright swimsuit. Sorry for my little rascal. It's okay, everything's fine, replied Rosa. That night, Rosa couldn't fall asleep. She was thinking about her husband's words. What if she really taught the kids something? Then the house wouldn't be so empty and cold. But what to teach? Rosa used to love embroidery and crochet. Yes, she could spend hours crafting. School friends were amazed by her diligence and precision. It was decided. She would teach the children embroidery and crochet. She just needed to remember everything and practice a little. After this thought, the young woman immediately fell asleep. I'm going to teach the children, Rosa said with a smile at breakfast. That's great, my little bird. What will you teach them? How to become as sweet as you. Pedro, I'm serious. You're always joking. Remember I used to embroider and crochet before, and then somehow I stopped. I remember. You still haven't finished my portrait. Shameless one, he winked at his wife. I'll finish it, my dear, I promise. So, I'm planning to teach these kids. Do you think I'll succeed? Of course. All the children in the neighborhood will come running. The house will buzz like a beehive. May the Lord hear your words, Rosa said dreamily, pressing her hands to her chest. Rosa Gonzalez had changed beyond recognition. She embarked on a vigorous self-education campaign, recalling all the things her old grandmother had taught her in childhood. She began buying books and magazines with craft patterns and expert advice. Before long, Rosa had her first pupils. They eagerly came 2 or 3 times a week to learn handicrafts with their kind and sensitive teacher. The house really buzzed, just as Pedro had promised. Rosa was happy. She was needed by these girls. She knew how to delight and surprise them. The woman, so lonely and distressed about not being able to become a mother, blossomed, becoming more beautiful, as if she were 18 again and had just met her Pedro. Several years passed. Rosa somehow unnoticed turned 30. It happened the day after her birthday. Rosa was waiting for her husband to come home from work as usual. her students had already left. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Strange, thought Rosa. Pedro always opens the door himself. Pedrito, is that you? The woman called through the door. It's me, my little bird. Open up quickly. What's wrong, dear? Rosa stared at the bundle her husband held in one hand while clutching his precious black sketchbook in the other. Rosa stared at the leather briefcase in Pedro's other hand. Rosita, Pedro began. Pedro, is this a doll? Where did you get it? Rosa asked, perplexed. You see, my little bird. Pedro started to explain, but then suddenly the bundle began to move and squeak. Automatically, Rosa took the squeaking bundle from her husband. Pedro, it's a baby. Who is it? She exclaimed. I don't know, my joy, he replied calmly. I found her by the roadside, lying in a rickety basket right under a bush. I couldn't just walk past. Oh my God, this is a heaven-sent gift. Pedro, why did you say she was lying? Look at this little face, it's clearly a girl. She even looks like you. Yes, such a lovely face, Rosa said tenderly, gazing at the baby's face. She's my girl, my daughter. I won't give her to anyone. So, Pedro and his beloved wife became parents. Monica grew up to be a lovely girl, and everyone around said she resembled Rosa a lot. No one even suspected they weren't blood-related. Mama, do you love me? Little Monica asked as Rosa tucked her into bed. Of course I love you, my little flower, more than anything in the world. And what about Dad? Your dad and I don't have anyone dearer and closer to us than you. Sleep, my little one. Will you teach me to knit and embroider like you teach the girls who come to our house? The girl continued, holding her mother's hand. I will, my sunshine. I will definitely teach you, but for now, close your eyes. Are we going to the sea tomorrow? Monica asked again. Monica, it's already late. You need to sleep, but yes, tomorrow we will definitely go to the sea, Rosa said, kissing her cheek tenderly. Monica was a curious and kind girl who dreamed of becoming an elementary school teacher. She always had many friends, and the house was constantly filled with cheerful children's voices. Rosa never felt lonely or unneeded for a moment. Pedro was delighted, he adored his daughter and spent all his free time with her and his wife. It was a real friendly and happy family. Pedro's dream of a large family did not come true, but he had the hearts of his beloved girls. Monica did not abandon her childhood dream of becoming a teacher and entered a pedagogical college. She was the best student in her class. Everything came easy to her, and ideas poured out of this energetic girl like lava from a volcano. Monica graduated from college with honors and immediately started working in a school. Sweetie, why do you want to go to a regular school? Pedro asked one day. Dad, what do you mean by regular school? I could arrange for you to go to a private, elite one. But, Daddy, I don't want anyone to arrange anything for me. I want to achieve everything on my own, and besides, I want to work with children from ordinary families. Monica, I have nothing against ordinary people, but you're such a great specialist. You deserve more. No, Dad, I want these kids from poor families to become smart, believe in themselves, and achieve a lot in their lives. All right, my butterfly. Fly, I understand. You're a teacher sent from above. Soon after starting her job, Monica met a guy she fell head over heels in love with. His name was Antonio. He was handsome and always joking. The girl couldn't spend a day without him. They walked along the seashore and talked about books and different parts of the world they wanted to visit. They were very young, and life stretched out before them like a long road to the horizon. Monica, honey, Rosa started a conversation with her daughter one day. You should be careful with your boyfriend, with Antonio. Mom, what's wrong? I love him, is that bad? No, sweetheart, it's not bad. I just worry about you very much. I feel like you take your relationship too seriously while he seems somewhat frivolous. Mom, Antonio is really nice. I believe you, my little flower, but I just don't want you to get hurt. Mommy, everything will be fine, don't worry, she said, kissing her mother on the cheek and dashing off to her date again. Rosa's fears were confirmed. Perhaps Antonio was a decent guy, but he clearly hadn't learned to take responsibility, and his love turned out to be just words. As the school children began their summer vacation, Monica only worked a few hours a day, spending the rest of her time at her boyfriend's studio. Antonio called himself an artist, but it seemed he hadn't created anything worthwhile yet. One day, returning from a friend's place, Rosa found Monica in the living room looking upset. "Monica, my girl," Rosa began, pausing as her gaze fell on the coffee table. There lay a pregnancy test, the Red Cross speaking volumes. "Mom, don't worry, please," Monica started, nervously clutching a book in her hands. "Have you told Antonio yet?" Rosa asked gently. "Not yet." "Then go ahead, text him and send a photo of the test." "Do you think that's the right way to do it? Rather than telling him in person?" "Yes, I think so. Men need some preparation to grasp the situation." "Mommy, I thought you'd be beside yourself with this news, but you're smiling. You're the best mom in the world." "Why should I be beside myself? It's time for me to become a grandmother. Otherwise, I won't have the strength for grandchildren later. I'll become too old." She sat beside Monica, hugging her and stroking her hair. "Mom, you'll be the youngest and most beautiful grandmother in all of Spain," Monica said, placing her head on her mother's shoulder. "Let's just send Antonio the photo already." "Do you think he'll be happy?" Rosa asked. "I think so, yes. He's an artist, sensitive by nature." There was no response from the future father. He hadn't been online since morning. "Mom, I'm worried. Maybe it's better to go to his studio and talk." "Okay, darling. Just be careful," Rosa hugged her daughter. "Okay, I'll be back soon. Stay in touch." Monica nodded, slipped her phone into the pocket of her light beige trousers, and dashed out of the house. She returned half an hour later. "So, did you talk?" Rosa greeted Monica, standing by the flower bed next to the house. "No, his studio was closed, and the person who sells books in the same building said he packed up and left around 9 in the morning." "Did he say anything about a trip?" "No, he didn't say anything at all." "Call him. Everything will become clear." "I called, Mom, but he's not answering. He simply ran away. Who knows what made him leave?" "Mom, if he loves me, he would say he's forced to leave." Tears welled up in the girl's eyes. "Don't cry, my dear. Let's wait. You know life brings all sorts of things." "Mom, the bookshop owner told me he seems to owe a lot to the landlord. He definitely ran away, and I foolishly believed him, believed in his love. You were right, Mom, to warn me to be more careful with Antonio. Why didn't I listen to you then, Mom? Why?" "Feelings, darling, feelings. Don't get upset. It's bad for you and the little one too. Let's go drink some tea instead. I made Turin, you love it, don't you, my sweet tooth? Let's go." "Mom, did you tell Dad?" "I'm sorry, sweetie, I couldn't hold it and I told him everything." "And what did he say? Is he going to scold me?" "You're in for a surprise. He's planning to buy you a car for the baby's birth." "Oh, I've ruined the surprise again," Rosa said, covering her mouth with her hand. "I need to be punished. Your dad and I are depriving you of Turin." Monica chuckled. "Oh no, not that." Rosa burst into laughter. Laura was born a little early, but both mother and daughter felt fine and were quickly discharged home. Pedro and Rosa prepared well for their granddaughter's arrival. The baby's room was already set up, with every detail thought of, from wallpaper to pacifiers. "Our granddaughter will have everything a little princess could dream of," Pedro said to his wife as they drove to pick up their girls from the maternity hospital. He also took care of a separate room and other conveniences for his daughter and granddaughter in advance. All the love he planned to give to his large family was now channeled to them. He now showered his 3 beloved women, his wife, daughter, and granddaughter Laura, with affection. Laura, unlike Monica who loved books, pencils, drawing albums, and modeling clay from an early age, grew up as a mischievous tomboy always on the move. "You should have been born a boy," Monica laughed. "Not everyone in the family should be into drawing and crafting," Pedro said, lifting his granddaughter in his arms. "Don't offend my little fighter," Monica said. "Dad, You should teach her how to shoot so she'll definitely become a fighter. And I will. Do you doubt me? Pedro replied. No, Daddy, I don't doubt you of all people, no way, Monica reassured him. No shooting. Rosa intervened. I will teach Laura how to bake cookies and make Turin. You two will end up fighting, Grandpa and Grandma. Monica laughed. Looks like you'll have to have another grandson so you can share. I knew it, I always knew my daughter was the most sensible in the world. Look at her, she's a real thinker. Pedro's dreams finally came true, albeit many years after they first arose in his mind. Their acquaintances couldn't believe that they almost never argued or quarreled. Their home was a gathering place where joy, happiness, and genuine love reigned. It seemed like a fairy tale world where only fairies, gnomes, and elves lived. But trouble knocked on the door of this fairy tale world when Rosita turned 5. Pedro fell ill, diagnosed with stage 4 brain cancer. The beloved husband, father, and grandfather burned out within a few months. Rosa thought she wouldn't survive this loss, it was so heavy for her to bear. Her love hadn't diminished since they met in that cafe 38 years ago, and now he had left them. No one would ever call Rosa a little bird again or Monica a butterfly. No one would play with mischievous Rosita or teach her how to shoot. No one would create some fantastic building project anymore. Only memories would remain, the warmth in the heart they invoked, and the bitterness of loss. Sweetheart, I can't live in this house anymore, Rosa said quietly one evening when Rosita was already asleep. I think we need to sell the house and buy something smaller. Whatever you say, Mom. To be honest, it's hard for me to stay here too. Everything reminds me of Dad, of his jokes, Monica sniffled. You're right, we need to sell this house when it's possible. So the mother and daughter sold the large house lovingly designed for them and moved to a modest cottage almost right on the coast. The sea carried away their sadness and instilled hope for the better. It became a little easier. The house smelled of cookies again, students started coming to Rosa's again, and Monica still worked at the school. It seemed like everything was slowly getting back on track. But Rosa was yet to face another terrible trial. There were no signs of trouble. Monica and her daughter were planning to visit Isabella, Monica's best friend. She lived quite far from them, so they were going for a few days. Maybe you won't go, Rosa said, helping to pack things in a small suitcase. Mom, we've already agreed. Isabella is waiting for us. She bought a bunch of gifts for Laura and prepared enough food for probably 100 people. You'll be lonely, won't you? We won't be gone for long, we'll be back in 3 days. Okay, darling, forgive me. I keep trying to keep you and Rosita close to me. I'm getting old. Mommy, you're not getting old at all. You're the youngest and most beautiful among us. Thank you, Rosa replied. Rosa sometimes called her daughter that in childhood. The girl always scolded her mom for it, but now she even liked it. Yes, Mom always came up with something, she was such a character. The daughter and granddaughter did not return home. Around 1 p.m., Rosa received a call and was told the worst news imaginable: your daughter and granddaughter died in a car accident. Their bodies were burned beyond recognition. I'm very sorry, said the voice on the other end of the line. Rosa stood there, thunderstruck, the ground slipping from beneath her feet. No, it couldn't be true. No, it couldn't be her girls. It must be a mistake. Monica would call any moment now, cheerfully telling her that everything was fine with Lori, that they would be together again soon. But Monica didn't call. Rosa had to identify her loved ones' bodies by the items that survived. Yes, those were her daughter's earrings and her granddaughter's bracelet. In that moment, life ended for Rosa. She stood by the grave for a long time, talking to herself. Why me? Why did this have to happen to me? First Pedro, my dear Pedro with his radiant eyes, and then my babies, my lovely girls. What did I do wrong? Where did I sin? What did I do to deserve such punishment? Why should I go on living now? Tears streamed down the woman's pale cheeks as she clutched her handkerchief with trembling hands, not even attempting to wipe them away. Rosa had always been slender, but now she seemed entirely drained of life from grief and sorrow. She often visited the cemetery. Her husband's grave wasn't here, he had asked for his ashes to be scattered at sea. Rosa and Monica fulfilled his last wish. But there was the grave of her daughter and little granddaughter. The woman would stand here for a long time, placing fresh flowers and crying. The only thing that saved Rosa was her students. Through her handicrafts, she could momentarily forget her triple sorrow. She was afraid to be alone. Thoughts overwhelmed her, and she felt like she was going crazy, like she would be torn apart by grief and memories. I'd rather be dead too, thought Rosa, lying sleepless in bed. Why did I let them go? My girls would be with me now, and we'd laugh and bake cookies. Sometimes Rosa couldn't close her eyes until morning. She tried to occupy herself in the small garden surrounding her house, so empty and even hostile as it seemed to her, but nothing worked. Everything slipped from her hands. She would throw it aside, retreat to the gazebo, and spend hours looking at their family photo. 5 months had passed since Monica and Lori had been laid to rest. On that day, Rosa stood once again at the graves of her beloved girls. She cried again, silently sobbing. Nearby, a cemetery worker, obvious from his uniform, was clearing away dry flowers and slowly placing them in a black bag. "Excuse me, is this your daughter?" he suddenly asked Rosa. "Yes, my daughter Monica and granddaughter Lori." "She looks a lot like you," he said, looking at the photo of the young woman. "Same thoughtful eyes and gentle smile." "Thank you," Rosa sniffled slightly. "Many people tell me we look alike, even though she's not blood-related to me." "Foster daughter." "Yes, although it's just a heaven-sent gift." They left her right under a bush in a tattered basket. Who could abandon this angel in a basket full of holes? I still can't fathom it. "Well, but if I tell you what I did over 25 years ago, you won't even want to talk to me." "Nobody knows about it, only me and that person." "What person?" "That person to whom I sold my newborn daughter." "Mother of God, what made you do that?" Rosa asked without judgment. And the cemetery worker told the woman his story, which subsequently changed everything, certainly. Here's a paraphrased version of the description with a slightly altered word order and maintaining a similar style. Ricardo, employed at the cemetery, was romantically involved with Anna, whom he fondly referred to as Anita. They shared a deep love for each other. At 19, Ricardo was determined to marry her, while Anna, just turned 17, waited for him one evening on the blue bench near the old plane tree. Ricardo worked for a man involved in fish processing at a small workshop. One evening, Anna abruptly started the conversation. "We need to talk. It's very important." "What's wrong, my berry?" Ricky asked with concern. "I'm pregnant," Anna replied, her eyes cast down. "Don't worry, we'll handle this together. Let's move in together. I only have my frail grandmother, whom I can't leave. She adores you, she's just very weak." "Are you serious?" "Of course I'm serious, silly. My father will kill me if he finds out." "No, we'll get married and raise our baby," Ricardo reassured her. Overcome with emotion, Anna threw herself into his arms, tears streaming down her face. He lovingly stroked her curly hair and whispered words of comfort. Anna moved in with Ricardo, and her parents, disapproving of their daughter's choices, cut off communication. Ricardo worked while Anna managed the household and cared for his ailing grandmother. After the grandmother passed away, Ricardo and Anna eagerly awaited their baby's arrival. Anna hesitated to visit the clinic due to fears about her underage status causing legal issues for Ricardo. Across from their apartment lived a retired midwife who occasionally checked on Anna's condition and offered to assist if needed. Grateful, Anna offered her help in return. Labor suddenly began, catching them off guard. Ricardo hurried to their neighbor Danita's door, desperately pleading for assistance. "Please open up," he begged. I'm coming," came the muffled reply from inside. "Danita, please, Anna's. I'll be there in a minute. I'll gather everything we need." "Go to her, my boy, go," Danita reassured him. Anna struggled through labor with dwindling strength, determined to bring her daughter into the world. Ricardo frantically realized, "We need to call an ambulance. Hurry, quickly, make the call, Ricky." "I love you so much," Anna whispered faintly. Rushing to her side, Ricardo clasped her hand tightly. "Anita, my sunshine, everything will be all right. I'm calling the ambulance now." "I love you," he repeated, tears streaming down his face. Anna's hand lay limp, her gaze fixed. Don't leave me, don't leave us, Ricardo pleaded, tears flowing freely. Donita gently touched his shoulder, offering silent support. Ricardo sat there by the roadside with the little girl in his arms, unsure of what to do next. Half an hour passed in silence until a well-dressed man approached cheerfully and asked why he looked so down. Anita, my girl, she passed away. Couldn't handle childbirth, Ricardo explained haltingly. I don't know what to do. We have no one. Listen, kid, I can help you, the man offered. Give the child to me. My wife and I will be good parents to her. Why do you want someone else's child? Ricardo asked, surprised. My wife can't have children, and we've been dreaming of a baby. I'll pay you, and no one will ever know what happened here. I promise. Ricardo glanced at his child and handed her over to the man without asking his name, noticing only the kindness in his eyes. The man took the baby with one hand and handed Ricardo a thick bundle of money with the other. Be happy, brother, the man said warmly, quickly walking away. Stunned, Ricardo stood by the roadside, pocketed the money, and headed in the opposite direction. Every day thereafter, he visited Anita's grave to seek forgiveness from his daughter and her mother, but knew nothing about the men who had taken his child. Who are you? Rosa asked sadly one day. I'm Ricardo, he replied quietly. And you? I'm Rosa. Nice to meet you, Don Ricardo, she greeted him warmly. They parted ways at that moment. At home, Rosa pondered the gravedigger's story, questioning why life unfolded in such unfair ways. She sat in her neglected garden gazebo, searching for answers she couldn't find. A week later, Rosa returned to the cemetery and encountered Ricardo just as she was leaving. Hello, Dona Rosa, he greeted her. Hello, Don Ricardo. How are you? She inquired. How can a confirmed bachelor be doing? He smiled sadly. Don Ricardo, could you tidy up my garden? I'll pay you well for it, Rosa offered suddenly. Why not help a good person? I can do it. I have tomorrow off and no plans, except a bit of laundry, he agreed. That's wonderful. How about around 11? I'll write down the address and phone number now, Rosa suggested, jotting down the details and handing him the slip of paper. Ricardo tucked it into his jacket pocket and promised not to be late. The next day, at the appointed hour, he stood outside Rosa's house. Hello, Don Ricardo. Glad to see you, Rosa greeted him warmly, opening the door. Would you like some tea? Hello, Dona Rosa. Let's deal with your garden first, and then we can have tea, he replied with a smile. You have a very beautiful house and a lovely garden too, Ricardo complimented. Thank you. We used to have a huge house, designed by my late husband. But after his death, my daughter and I sold it to move away from painful memories. Now it's just me, Rosa explained sadly. Let's get started then. I'll show you where the tools are kept, Ricardo said, ready to begin their task together. 2 hours later, the garden looks unrecognizable. You've done a wonderful job. Thank you, Rosa said cheerfully as they sat in the lace-like gazebo, sipping tea. Do you bake these cookies yourself? Ricardo asked. I used to. My girls and I used to bake them. I haven't done it since that dreadful day. But yesterday, I decided to make them to please you. After all, there's no one left to please me anymore, Rosa said sadly. Don't say that. You're not old at all, and you managed to please me, Ricardo replied suddenly. Ricardo's gaze fell upon a simple necklace around Rosa's neck, a round wooden pendant adorned with carvings. Something stirred within him, and his heart raced. Dona Rosa, where did you get this necklace? He asked abruptly. This, she pointed to her pendant. I found this pendant wrapped in swaddling clothes with my Monica. There's an engraving on it, a letter A, probably someone's name started with this letter. After my girls passed away, I started wearing it constantly, as if they were always with me. Ricardo turned pale, remaining silent and motionless, his sad eyes blinking frequently, usually a sign of trying to hold back tears. What's wrong with you, Don Ricardo? Rosa asked, alarmed. It's her, Ricardo struggled to say. It's my daughter. Your Monica. I sold her to your husband many years ago. This pendant. I carved it for my Anita. Ricardo covered his face with his hands and silently wept. Rosa began to sob uncontrollably. What did you say? Rosa managed to ask through tears. My husband bought our little girl from you. He handed me a thick bundle of money, said it was for Anita's funeral, and even managed to set some aside for a rainy day. I can't even bear to remember it. It makes me sick to my stomach. But back then, it seemed like the only way out. And Pedro told me he found Monica under a bush in a rickety basket. It's so strange, he never lied to me. Probably didn't want to upset you, Ricardo shrugged. Yeah, what's the use of remembering all this now? My girl is gone anyway. Or rather, my girls, my precious little ones. Rosa wiped tears from her face. As they bid farewell to each other, Rosa said, Don Ricardo, do come over for tea sometime. We essentially share the same grief. It seems easier to cope with it together. I think I agree. It's easier together, Ricardo replied, rubbing his nose with 2 fingers. Of course. Until we meet again, Ricardo. Rosa smiled faintly, feeling like she had found a brother in him. She had never found it so easy to communicate with Ricardo, nor had she felt such pleasure in accepting his help around the house and delighting him with delicious meals. Rosa sensed that Ricardo enjoyed her company as well, grateful to have found someone who not only refrained from judging him for his past but also shared in his pain. During one lunch together, Rosa confided, You know, I sleep so poorly. Sometimes I can't close my eyes until dawn. Even sleeping pills don't help, they seem to make it worse. I had that too. Didn't sleep for days, wandered around like a shadow. But an herb helped me, Ricardo replied. What? Rosa exclaimed, intrigued. It's not what you think. I have a friend who lives in the capital now. His father is an herbalist who lives in a cottage deep in the forest. He treats people there, and there was always a crowd at his place, at least, the last time I was there about 10 years ago. He helped me, gave me some concoction, and the insomnia went away. My nerves calmed down a bit. Wow, living deep in the woods in this day and age, it's like something out of a fairy tale about magical gnomes, Rosa smiled. Is it far? She asked. Not really. Let's go. Maybe he's still available, Ricardo replied. Let's do it, Rosa agreed. Otherwise, I'll lose my mind with this insomnia soon. One rainy Saturday morning, Ricardo picked up Rosa in his old pickup truck, and they set off to visit the forest, or Narnia, as they jokingly called it, to see the herbalist. They drove out of town, passing fields on the left and ravines and forests on the right. It's picturesque here, Rosa remarked. Yeah, and you know, nothing really changes. It's been fields and forests for the past 20 years, Ricardo observed, making a right turn. We're almost there. They arrived at an old house with a slightly crooked porch. Look, it's still standing, but there's no one around. The old man must have passed away, Ricardo speculated. What a pity, Rosa sighed. But as they approached, the door of the cottage creaked open, and a girl of 6 or 7 appeared on the porch, her short curly hair joyfully sticking out in all directions. Are you here to see Grandpa? She asked briskly. Yes, darling, Rosa replied. Are you his granddaughter, then? What's your name? Laura, but Grandpa calls me Elle, the girl answered. Oh my goodness, she looks just like my Lorita, Rosa whispered to Ricardo. But she's nothing like my friend or his wife, he mused. Diwan, is that you? Ricardo exclaimed, recognizing the old man. Ricky, is that you, my boy? The old man squinted. Yes, it's me, Don Juan, and this is Rosa, he gestured to the woman beside him. Hello, she greeted warmly. Hello, come in. How can I help you? Don Juan asked. Don Juan, you used to have a miraculous elixir for insomnia. Do you still have it? Ricardo grinned broadly. I have everything. Where's Lo? Where did this little rascal go again? I told her to bring water, Don Juan chuckled. Is she your granddaughter? Asked Rosa. You could say that. I found her, she fell from the sky, it seemed. I could hardly manage. She was just starting to come to herself, covered in bruises, had to cut her hair short like a boy, wore a bandage for a month and a half, poor thing, Don Juan explained. Why didn't you report it to the police? They must be looking for her, Rosa wondered. She was weak. I didn't want to traumatize her further. I got attached to her like my own, Don Juan replied. The door swung open, and Laura burst in with a pitcher of water. Granny, the girl suddenly exclaimed, nearly dropping the jug from her hands. Rosa turned to the girl and covered her mouth with her hand. Lorita, my girl, is it really you? It's me. Why haven't you come for so long? And where is Mom? Tears welled up in Laura's eyes as Rosa hugged the little one close. Virgin Mary, you're... Rosa couldn't finish her sentence. Ricardo and Don Juan watched silently, struck dumb. It couldn't be Lorita alive. But then who was the girl with her bracelet on her wrist? The three of them returned home together, Laura chattering along the way, telling her grandmother everything she could remember. We were driving with Mom along the road, and suddenly we noticed a girl. She was probably about 6, like me. Mom stopped and asked her why she was all alone here. She was crying and saying she wouldn't live with that mean aunt anymore. We put her in our car. I gave her my favorite bracelet, made of stone beads, the one Grandpa gave me. And then the car hit something, and I flew down somewhere. And then I only remember a kind forest grandfather who smeared me with some ointments and gave me different bitter decoctions. I think that's what he called them. And then you arrived, Laura recounted. My dear Lord, my little one, I thought you were already. Rosa said quietly. And Mom? Mom died, right? Laura asked somewhat maturely. Rosa nodded. She didn't want to lie to her granddaughter, but she couldn't find the strength to talk about Monica's death. And who is this man driving? Lorita asked. This little one, this is your grandfather, Rosa answered. How? My grandfather Pedro is already dead. That's right, my joy. But this is another one of your grandfathers, Grandfather Ricardo, Rosa explained. Lorita didn't ask anything else, dozing off on Granny's shoulder. Rosa and Ricardo didn't speak either. They knew for sure that a completely different life had begun. Now, they had a reason to live. How fortunate it was that Ricardo approached Rosa at the cemetery and started that difficult conversation. If not for that conversation, perhaps they would have never found their Lorita, their one granddaughter, their precious heart. Dear viewers, if you enjoyed the story, please support the video by liking it and leaving a comment. Thank you very much.